Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about how much money you need to move to Canada. This is the second part of a previous video. And if you're coming to this video first, I'm going to put a link in the description to part one. We're going to speak about proof of funds and what you need to provide to Immigration Canada when you're making your application. And before we start, we'll just start with the money required. We're just going to do a revision and just go over the numbers that we mentioned in part one of this video. So, number of family members, it goes through 1 through 7. So the first family member or one person coming is 14,690. Sorry, 14,690. Two adults, 18,288. Three adults, 22,483. Four adults, 27,297. Five adults, 30,690. Six adults, 34,917. And seven adults, 38,875. And for each additional family member beyond 7, you have to add 3,958. It's just a review of the previous numbers as a reminder for you. Now, what does a bank actually require? Well, they require letters, which is proves that you have an account at the bank, and on the letterhead, the bank's contact information, which is the name of the bank, the address, phone number, and email. And there must be official letters from the banks or the financial institutions where you have accounts. Now, let me just talk about this sample letter, because typically a bank you'll ask your bank and they'll say, well, we don't do that. And let me just kind of backtrack a little. Remember, the bank doesn't really know you personally. They see money, they look at your account. You're essentially a number, a name and a number. You see money going in, money coming out, money going in, money coming out. And once you adhere to their rules, you're not going overdraft when you shouldn't, or you're not making late payments to your credit cards, etc. You're just a name and a number. So typically you're going to the bank and say, I'll need, Mr. Bank Manager, I need a reference letter. Well, we don't do reference letters. Here's what you do. Here's what we did for when we were coming to Canada. And this is what the suggestions I've made to other people we've spoken to who are coming. So I've just put a sample letter here. So let's just go through it. Obviously the bank, it's going to be on a bank letterhead, so it'll have their name printed on there, their address, phone number, the date, and because we're trying to keep it, we're going to keep it generic because we're going to use this in more than one place, and I'll talk about that in a minute. To whom it may concern, Mr. and Mrs. Smith has held an account with ABC Bank for the period, date, month, and year, and has operated the account satisfactorily as per all terms and conditions. It's as simple as that. And you hand it to the bank and tell them this is what I want, or you just write it down for them and say, this is what I want you to provide for me. They'll do that. And this is work with many, many people that we've given this to. So the bank will provide it. A couple of things. Don't tell the bank that you're using this because you're leaving the country and you're going to close the account. We'll talk about that in another video in procedures, but just hand it to them, tell them what you want to tell them, and don't tell them that you're taking this and using it for you're leaving the country. This letter also, you can use it as if you get a second copy, you can use it for banks in Canada. And we'll explain that another time. But banks in Canada, if you take this to them, it will help in your application, especially when you're dealing with interest rates and stuff like that. I would also suggest if you have more than one account with more than one bank, get one of these from every single bank so that you have it when you're moving, because you'll only have one opportunity to get this. Whether you choose to tell your bank after the fact that you've left or you're closing your account is really up to you. But initially, you could give them a story as to why you need this. Use your imagination. Now let's look at some of the things that you will need to provide. Other things you need to provide. Any outstanding debts, such as credit cards, any other debts and loans. You're going to need to provide details for each current banking and investment account you have with your bank. This includes account numbers, date each account was opened, current account balances, and average balance for the past 6 months. They want to see how much money is going into the account and what your average, your income is, obviously, and what your average balance is over a month, how much money you have left over a month, how much you spend per month. It's getting a lot more detailed now. It never used to be this detailed when we were coming. So it's a little bit more detailed now. They're looking for a lot more information. The money must be available to you when you apply and a permanent resident visa is issued. You must be able to prove that you can legally access the money. This means that you cannot use equity in real estate or other assets. So, for example, if you have a house and that house is worth 300,000, sorry, you've paid 300,000, but it's now worth 500,000. You can't use the equity and say, well, I've got 200,000, I've got 200,000 pounds or dollars in equity. No, you need to have the money available in an account somewhere, liquid. Another thing you can't use lines of credit. Again, that's technically borrowing money. So you can't do that as proof of settlement funds. Everything you need to provide to them has to be funds that are available, readily available to you. And just going back to the letter, if your wife or partner has an account in their own name, get a letter from their bank, particularly if it's a separate bank. Just kind of thought of that now as we're going through this. How much money should I bring to Canada? Well, normally as much as possible is the answer. And don't bring your money to Canada like this. If you're bringing more than $10,000 Canadian, you have to tell the border officer, otherwise you may be fined or all the money seized. Please remember that. This includes cash, stocks, treasury bills, bankers' drafts, checks, and money orders. Good luck. See you next video.